Hello, and welcome to another meeting of the Lotus Council. So what we have today is another Jankmander deck tech. So what we're going to be doing today is what I'm going to call the Janklord. So if you're not familiar with Quest for the Janklord, you really should check that channel out. But essentially, they build decks with no card above 79 cents. And so when I joined their Discord, I was able to get one assigned to me, and I was assigned Squee the Immortal, and I started putting together a deck. Now, unfortunately, by the time I had finished putting the deck together, Squee's gone up over 79 cents. He was below 79 cents before, and I had a few cards that were over, and I took those out and swapped things around. So as of right now, other than the assigned commander, everything else is below 79 cents. It could very well change with new sets being dropped and things. But let's go ahead and talk about what I have. So the mana base, pretty straightforward. Mostly mountains. Do have a few utility lands here. So Castle Embereth, Smoldering Crater, Forgotten Cave, Desert of the Fervent, Mad Blind Mountain, and Dormant Volcano, with 3 of these being cycling lands to be able to draw cards to make it a little bit simple. Then I also have some mana and creature reducing or cost reducing effects. So Commander Sphere, basically tapping for a color in the commander's identity, but you can also sack for drawing a card. Sisei's Ring, tapping for 2, Fountain of Ichor. It's also able to become a creature. Fire Diamond, Windfield Scarecrow to be able to sack and go find land, 2 basic lands. Palladium Mirror, adding 2. Iron Mirror, adding a red. And then Goblin War Chief, which it means that goblins cost 1 less to cast, and they have haste. So that'll be really important, because let's look at the commander. So you may cast Squee the Immortal from your graveyard or from exile. So basically, the idea is we're going to be sacrificing Squee to various effects, and then getting Squee back because we can cast it from wherever. So even if somebody exiles Squee from the graveyard, you can still cast it from exile. Basically, once you cast it, you don't let it go back to the command zone, and you don't pay commander tax. So I have a whole slew of creatures, like On-Crop Invader, Blood Aspirant, Lowland Oath. This one's a little bit different because this gives a goblin +1/+0 and flying till end of turn, but it sacrifices. But all these creatures are to sacrifice to. Scorchfoot Casa, Skirt Prospector, Arms Dealer, Click Slither, Mog Raider, Goblin Soothsayer, and Goblin Lookout. So the idea, basically, you're sacrificing Squee for the abilities on those creatures. Then I have cool things like Desecrated Tomb. Whenever 1 or more creature cards leave your graveyard, create a 1/1 black bat creature token with flying. So Squee's going to be leaving the graveyard a lot. So that'll be interesting. Then we've got Furnace Celebration. So whenever you sacrifice another permanent, pay 2. If you do, it deals 2 damage to any target. Then Blood Rites, Sacrificing, Barrage of Expendables, Artillerize, Collateral Damage, Fling, Fiery Conclusion, Heartfire, Goblin Barrage, Infernal Plunge, Crack the Earth, Hellion Eruption, and Thud, basically requiring a sacrifice. Well, I do have some other spells as well, some general utility spells like Infuriate, Shatter, Crush, Fist of the Anvil, Goblin War Party, and Wild Guess to be able to draw some cards. And then I have burn spells because, this is a red deck. So Shock, Blazing Salvo, Electra Trickery, Mutiny, Bathe in Dragonfire, and good old Fireball as a mana sink. Well, utility enchantments and artifacts, we have Armory of Ironis, Rogue's Gloves for the card draw, Dragon Mantle, Volcanic Strength, Cavalcade of Calamity, because I'll have a lot of 1/1 goblins and 1/1 bats, so this will cause them to deal damage and just from attacking. Fiery Mantle, Fire Breathing, Crown of Fury, Goblin War Drums, giving everything menace, and Goblin Slide. So basically casting all these other spells, we can pay an extra 1 and get a 1/1 goblin with haste. So let's talk about the remaining creatures. So we do have a Torbrand, because if a red source would deal damage to an opponent or a permanent an opponent controls, deals that much plus 2. So when we're sacking Squee, and it's often tied to Squee's power, it'll do 2 damage plus 2. This is really, really great. And things like Shock, they're dealing 4 damage, so it improves the amount of damage. Howling Golem, whenever it attacks or blocks, each player draws a card. A callback to Howling Mine. Then we got Earth Cult Elemental, which, I don't know, I really like this card because it's a roll of the dice, which rolling dice is kind of janky, but the payoff is 1 through 9. Each player sacrifices a permanent. Well, that's okay. We've got Squee. We can get rid of Squee. But 10 through 19, each opponent sacrifices a permanent, and a nat 20 would be each opponent sacrifices 2 permanents. For a 6/6, basically helping to get rid of your opponent's creatures. Then we got Skirk Commando, Skirk Shaman, Crazed Goblin, Raging Goblin, Intimidator Initiate, Goblin Vandal, and a Goblin War Driver. So the idea with this deck, sack Squee, have it deal damage to an opponent or something, and we can basically get Squee back forever and ever and ever without needing to worry about, an increase in commander cost. So I really like to have new players use this kind of a deck. Once they get the hang of the idea, you sacrifice Squee and let Squee go to the graveyard, it becomes interesting because this is a very, very inexpensive deck that they could build, and it's one that's very easy to pilot once you just get the hang of things. So, well, we want to thank you for joining us today. Hopefully this was a fun deck tech. If you're on the lookout for cards, go ahead and check out our sponsor over at Geekified. Their website is geekified.us. Sealed, single, as well as geeky supplies. You can also find them in our Discord, just ping Counselor of Goods. So if you want to know when we're doing our next meeting, go ahead and subscribe, hit that bell notification, and join us in our Discord. That's a really good place to go because we do all sorts of fun things in there. We play games, we have giveaways, we do auctions, there's trading that goes on, all sorts of fun things, and lots of channels for just chatting about different formats and different things. So thank you for joining us today, and we hope to see you at the next one. So that is all we have for today, and the meeting is now adjourned. We hope you have a fantastic day.